Sometimes when I look in the mirror, I think I look like a monster. A miserable creature, with needles like a hedgehog, standing sharp and stiff down to the bone. In truth, my core, my innermost self is softer and warmer than people think. More than enough to fully embrace someone. Yet, the moment I step out into the world, I find myself bristling with thorns. When I stop and wonder why, it always comes down to one thing. I just hate being hurt so much. Because I believe this is the only way to protect myself. Because I feel like that soft flesh will be trampled the moment it is exposed. I hide behind my thorns. The problem is that these thorns, raised merely to keep myself alive, end up piercing and hurting the people around him. Hearing things like, "Why do you show so much that you were never loved?" Or, "Why are you always so sharp and peculiar?" makes my heart sink. It makes me feel as if I truly am a flawed person who grew up unloved and doesn't know how to give love. It brings the miserable thought that I am just rationalizing and taking this ugly defense mechanism for granted. What is even worse is when I am told that someone got hurt. When I intended nothing and did absolutely nothing. I was merely standing still in my place to protect myself. Yet hearing that my silence and my distance became a sharp weapon to someone brings a deep helplessness that goes beyond unfairness. Every time that happens, the thorns inside me do not point outward, but snap and bend backward toward myself. Startled by the pain I have caused, I crawl deeper into my cave out of guilt and regret. In the end, it is a vicious cycle. Fearing pain, I raise my thorns with those thorns. I hurt others, and terrified by that guilt, I hide even deeper. I repeat this life over and over. When I poured out these struggles, the world spoke so easily. They said I must change, that I must lower my thorns and be the first to approach with a rounded edge. But people do not know. They do not know that I have already bled and fought for several years, trying desperately to fit myself into the rigid mold of this society. By nature, I am not someone who is affectionate or the first to approach others. That is just who I am. Still, solely out of a sense of responsibility to fulfill my role, I squeeze out every drop of my energy to be kind to those I meet, hanging on at the edge of a cliff every single day. After dealing with people like that, my soul is already scraped bare and completely drained. In that state, to expect me to care for and pay attention to every single person around me is simply too cruel. Yet, those around me easily judge, asking why that is all I can do, why I don't approach them first, when I am already suffocating and dying. Demanding that I watch others' reactions and cater to everyone around me is nothing short of brutal. In the past, even if I didn't awkwardly reach out first, there were grateful people who recognized my true self and approached me. There was a safe shelter that accepted me for who I was, even if I was shy and clumsy. But inside a strange environment, where even the shelter that protected me has vanished, I fought desperately to approach others. First, breaking my own pride in doing things I had never done in my life to change myself. I was making a gamble that pushed past my own limits every single day. Yet, what returned at the end of my bone-breaking efforts was still the wary gaze of people who feared me, misunderstandings, and the bitter results of failure. What drives me even crazier is the fact that, despite all of this, others still point fingers and say my efforts were lacking. I truly did my best. It was a sincerity scraped together from the very bottom of my empty energy. Things that are nothing to those who are naturally social require immense courage and feel like an exhausting crusade for someone of my disposition, and the world will never understand that. I never asked for anything grand, but when I feel that my blood-swept efforts turn into absolute nothingness because of a careless word or a cold glance from people who don't even know me, that massive wave of despair and helplessness breaks me down so completely. In the end, I am always back at square one. So now, I am just too exhausted. Now, I really don't want to do anything anymore. What if I were a person of great ability, standing in a position of immense social power and status? Even if I maintained the exact same silence and kept the exact same distance, people would not have taken it as a wound. Instead, they would have packaged it as being cautious or weighty, reading my expressions and approaching first to cater to me. The world is cold and moves by the logic of power. Because I lack that power, it feels like an oppressive demand. That leaves both sides wounded in this state, telling me to unconditionally bow my head and clear away my thorns. It feels entirely wretched. The reason those words were so terrifying and infuriating was because telling me to clear away my thorns sounded like telling me to take all the blades and wounds of the world, bare-skinned, without a single shield. If the wounds come rushing in again while I stand there defenseless, I will have to take all those countless pains, raw on my skin pains that I at least avoided thanks to my thorns. I became terrified of whether I was a person with the mental strength to endure that. Others easily say that as wounds heal, you become stronger, but I couldn't even trust whether I possessed that kind of resilience. To be completely honest, the only reason I am barely hanging on to this contradictory life right now is because of the sole pillars supporting my side. My mother and my wife. If even one of these massive pillars supporting me were to vanish from this world, if this safe zone that embraces me unconditionally disappears, there will truly be nothing left to hold me up. The extreme terror of what would become of me without even my thorns comes rushing in. So, the conclusion I ultimately reached was to just hold my breath and endure as I am, lacking the courage to change and the power to alter the world. I merely survived day by day, locked inside my own thorns. But then, I suddenly wondered, is there really anyone else in this vast world who thinks like me? Someone who raises thorns because they hate being hurt, yet withers away in loneliness and guilt, watching others get pricked by them. Is there really anyone else as pathetic and contradictory as me? If there is, how on earth did they make it through this hellish cycle? As it turns out, there were so many that psychology even coined the term, the hedgehog's dilemma. Countless people who looked perfectly fine on the outside were bleeding internally, harboring this exact same contradiction. And as I listened to the stories of those who passed through this suffocating tunnel first, I was able to find a tiny thread of a clue. They did not force themselves to pluck out their thorns. They knew that telling an already weakened human to strip away their thorns immediately is no different from telling them to take off all their clothes in the dead of winter. Instead, they changed the direction of their thorns. They rearranged them not as weapons to strike others, but as a solid shield to wrap around their own precious core, a personal boundary. Instead of striking first with sharp words, out of fear that the other person might hurt them, they practiced protecting themselves safely by clearly declaring their state, saying, "I don't have much room in my heart right now, so I want to be alone." And while the pillars supporting them were still by their side, they desperately internalized the feeling of being loved and safe. Within that space, no matter how much the world shook them, they saved the memory in their hearts that, at least within this boundary, they were safe even without raising their thorns. They knew that when this capital of security builds up, the true inner strength to endure, the world is forged, even if the pillars of life shake in the future. Crucially, they changed their definition of ability. It wasn't about having the money and power the world talks about to be confident. They realized that choosing to let things go smoothly, because they didn't want to waste their precious energy on such consuming situations, and controlling their emotions according to their own will, was also an immense ability. It wasn't submitting because they lacked power. It was proactively choosing flexibility to protect themselves. To myself, sitting alone and curled up with thorns raised at this very moment, and to anyone who resembles me, I want to say this. It is completely fine if you don't change anything right now. Let us not drive ourselves to the wall, trying to force our strength to break our own thorns. Since I have already tried my absolute best to change, if I don't want to do it anymore, it is okay to just stop for a moment, completely exhausted as I am. If those thorns are the only clothes protecting me right now, it is perfectly fine to keep them on, leaning on the precious pillars I have. Just making it safely through today means I am already enduring with every ounce of my might. I hope the simple fact that there are people in this world who held the exact same pain, but eventually found their own shields, brings a tiny piece of comfort to my curled up heart.